What's up, you guys? Nick Armstrong here, managing editor of Pro Wrestling Unlimited. That's not even our website. It's pwunlimited.net. With another edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, brought to you by our friends at Fightful, if you couldn't tell by the name of the show. Joining me is Tim. Tim, how you doing?
What's going on? Tim Jarrell here, founder of PW Unlimited.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick it off the same way we always do, the same way that you guys have known and loved for months now, with the Raw and Smackdown Notes. The title of Monday Night Raw this week was Unhinged, an ode to Hell in a Cell pay-per-view the night prior and Paul Heyman coming out for his promo with the unhinged door. For those asking, I'm, as in Sean, I'm told that the show was always planned to go a little heavy, which is kind of confusing, considering virtually nothing really happened until the end of the show. The title of SmackDown Live this week was, quote, Queen Bee, in reference to Becky Lynch promo at the close of SmackDown, where she told Charlotte, call her the Queen Bitch.
For those that didn't get how Nick read that, she said, call me Queen. Charlotte went to walk off, and then with Charlotte's back turned to Becky, Becky just said, bitch.
Both shows this week were strong. They're very strong.
Yeah, you could say that, I guess.
They're a lot stronger than they were. I'm assuming this is to make up for the two very lackluster go-home shows the week prior.
Most likely.
But I thought both shows this week were great. I really love Becky's promo. I love the match with Almas this week. I thought that one was fantastic. It was just a really fun, 2 days of wrestling. It was exciting. It was very fast paced. It had stuff that you're gonna remember, and it also had Randy Orton forcing a man to watch something, which I can only presume was like to Randy Orton his version of porn.
My question.
You're my answer.
Where was Randy's hand before he stuck it on the guy's face?
Exactly.
He didn't say shake my hand, because he was like, you don't need to shake my hand. I'll just rub it all over your face.
You don't need to shake it. You can feel it.
Ooh.
Speaking of feeling, you know what probably never felt good for like wrestlers?
What?
Taking like a stiff DDT.
That Raven effect? Even flow DDT?
That even flow DDT. And if you guys were interested in learning how the even flow DDT even came about, well, Sean has a new series over on Fightful called Making a Finisher, and it's about as advertised. You're going to learn how these guys have made their finishers. We're going to send it over to you with one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, one of my favorite promos, wrestlers, and like idols. What about Raven? So let's send you over to Making a Finisher with Raven right now.
Kind of do a segment where I look at the anatomy of a finishing move, and your DDT, I mean, I consider like you and Jake, and that's it. But yours is a little different than Jake's.
Yeah.
What made you pick that move and make the variation and change? Because, I mean, it's a lot more sudden. It looks a little bit different. But, I mean, it's such a, like, you see that move, and especially when you see it from you or Jake Roberts, and it's like, all right, that's it. They ain't getting up.
Well, here's the thing is just the irony is the grappler was actually one of the people that was the guy Jake was working with when they accidentally invented it.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, Jake had him in a front chancellery, and somehow they stumbled, and he ended up spiking the grappler on his head. And then he goes, hey, that's a great move. I'll just keep using it. And he called it the DDT and people don't even know what DDT is, what it means, but it was actually a pesticide that they banned in the 70s because it was so dangerous. So it was a really good name,
Killed a bunch of birds, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But so it even has a good pedigree to it. But anyway, the reason I picked it was because you need a finish you can do to everybody. And I was doing a pile driver before, but with heavier guys, it's a pain, and it also kills my tailbone and my ass cheeks. So because most guys, when they do a pile driver, they just fall on their butt, which I don't think looks dangerous at all. You have to kind of jump up and kick your feet out and then fall suddenly on your ass. but that's a pain in the ass sometimes with bigger guys. So I was like, So I figured I'd go to DDT, and I know I needed it because I can do it to everybody. And also Jake was one of my heroes, so I figured it was an homage to him. That's where I got the sitting in the corner from too. Was an homage to him because he used to slink into the corner and then grab the top ropes and pull himself up. And that's what made me think to sit in the corner and just sit there. But anyway, so the way I make the move, the reason that it looks, well, when I do it right, when I'm not being lazy and just falling, but when I do it right, I hook the guy and I give it a second or two, because you have to give it a second or two, because there has to be a space for someone to counter it. And if you always hit it suddenly, right off as soon as you grab the neck, then if you ever pause, people are going, hey, he's pausing so somebody can reverse it. So that's why I would put I'd have the head under my left arm, and I'd swing my right arm up, which I kind of ripped off of Matt Hardy when he does the twist of fate.
Yeah.
Just that couple second thing. And that's the thing. You take bits and pieces from everybody.
And if you guys want to see the full making a finisher, head over to the Fightful YouTube channel, or of course, Fightful.com. I've talked too much. Tim, why don't you talk a little bit about my favorite commentator and my least favorite commentator?
All right, so Nick is talking about none other than
Jimmy Van and Sean Ross Sapp. Play the intro.
They're not commentators. He's talking about Renee Young and Johnathan Coachman. Renee's your favorite?
I wouldn't say she's my favorite, but compared to Coachman, she's miles ahead.
Well, yeah.
Just an enjoyment factor. I mean, Coach is just tough to listen to sometimes.
So Sean wrote the following.
Right. Sean Wright following words.
He stated, I'm told there's no bad blood between Johnathan Coachman and Renee Young after the latter replaced Coachman. Mm-hmm. There was chatter backstage on the production end that Renee would likely take over the role after she impressed in her first week filling in for Coach. WWE announcers are slowly gaining more freedom in the announcer's booth, and that sometimes led to Corey Graves and Michael Cole arguing with Coachman, better or for worse.
Yeah, and a lot of those arguments seemed very like, Coach, you are a literal idiot. Stop talking. My favorite thing Coach has ever said was when Ronda was getting in a bear hug by Nia, and you're supposed to be like, this looks devastating for Ronda. This looks painful. And Coachman's like, no, that's great. It's great. She just has time to relax and assess what's going on.
Right.
What? No.
See.
That makes no sense.
See, the argument.
He's such. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go.
No, I'm into it. He was a perfect character.
Who, Coach?
In an age where you can't have characters on commentary, he was the perfect character. Back in 2006, 2002, 2006, those times around there, the Attitude Era and
when he was announcing on Heat and stuff.
When he was announcing on Heat, he was doing backstage interviews with The Rock. Those were good because you could really think on commentary, man, this Coachman guy, I hate him. Not because he sucks, but because he's the heel commentator. What bothers me is that now he's trying to play up that, like, real fight feel to it when it's like, look, I understand that we want to make wrestling seem as legitimate as physically possible, and I appreciate anyone that tries to do that, but there is a level of degree that you get to when it's, we know that this is all scripted stuff, so make the move seem hard-hitting. Make a super kick seem like my jaw's going to crack open and all of my teeth are going to fall out, and any new ones are also going to fall out. Don't see someone in a bear hug and immediately think this is good for the opposition because they have time to relax and think. It doesn't make sense. He's trying to work too much real world into it, and it didn't work. And I think Renee, right now, she seems a lot like a CNC, like you pull the string and it lands on a phrase and she kind of says it.
Yeah.
But she's getting more and more comfortable. During Hell in a Cell, towards the end, she was getting a lot more comfortable when she was talking. She was a lot more comfortable than Coach sounded because they also don't hate Coach. So you could tell when Coach was talking and Michael Cole and Corey Graves are sitting there thinking, man, Coach is he doesn't get it. then that makes the commentary awkward. It makes the match seem off, and it makes you feel really weird, and it takes you out of the match.
And
it takes you out of the match with it. I'm sorry, when the two commentators, when the three commentators are butting heads, not in story reasons. JR and Paul Heyman butted heads in story. These guys butted heads because Coach was trying to make it seem too legitimate. Go ahead.
No. You basically just said what I was about to say, but you didn't give the example that I would have gave. It's like Corey shooting down Coach all the time is because Coach was trying to put too much realism on it, and just he wasn't working. If you would use that word, everything's supposed to be a work.
Yes.
He was trying to put too much of a shoot on it. Now go to SmackDown. Who does Corey shoot down like that on SmackDown, but in the right kind of way? Byron Saxton.
Exactly.
He's not calling Byron stupid most of the time the way he was calling Coach. He just does his whole, shut up, Byron.
Yeah, he does. And then shut up, Byron becomes a thing. When you're saying, Coach, you're an idiot, that's because you're upset about it, and because it's truly like, Coach,
when you've got Michael Cole shooting back at you, you've done messed up.
Seriously. And I don't mean to make it all doom and gloom. I'm very excited for Renee Young. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, there's more here.
There's more. I'm sorry to cut you off like mid-thing.
You're good. So Sean also writes, Young has received a lot of praise from wrestlers we've spoken to, and our sources on the production side said that she's learning very quickly. Young is extremely popular backstage, and everyone we spoke to knew that she would have plenty of options outside of the WWE. I know ESPN at one time did contact her and try to sign her away. On the other hand, Sean writes, or on the other side of things, he says that I was told WWE was very happy with Coachman's performance during the Hell in a Cell kickoff show. One production employee told me that Coachman seemed much more confident in that spot as opposed to the commentary booth, which that's because that was kind of like what he did on ESPN and his stuff with football, where he runs down the card. He runs down, like the stuff we've heard him in the new Madden game, where he's the one that gets you hyped up for the upcoming game. And with that, I kind of hope Coach becomes the voice of the XFL.
I that's something that I could see happening. Maybe that's why they originally brought him back. Get used to commentating. We'll bring you to Raw. Get used to commentating. Then go to the XFL.
Because like when you watch ESPN, and when you watch Coach on Sports Center, or even when you watch him on the Golf Network, he's not sitting there having to call these moves in the ring and all that and have to be witty on his, it's more of a like on Sports Center, for instance, he's already seen the clips. He knows what he's going to talk about. He's got his little bullet points. Just add a little to that. Mm-hmm. Same thing on the kickoff show. He knows what the storylines are going into Hell in a Cell, so he's probably got bullet points on, okay, I want to hit on, say, with Joe and AJ. Joe's been talking about AJ's family, so I know that's a bullet point. I'm going to talk about that. I've got an idea of what I'm going to say. But with being on commentary on Raw and SmackDown, excuse me, his whole mindset is, all right, so I know what the script tells me is going to happen tonight for the most part, but I still got to do stuff on the fly. Now, Coach can do that stuff on the fly. I'm not saying he can't, but he's not good at it when he can't call it exactly how he sees it. He's got to call it in a worked wrestling style, if that made any sense.
He has to call it the way they want him to call it, not the way he would feel comfortable calling it.
Exactly. He can't just say, ooh, Becky Lynch took that clothesline from Charlotte, but it didn't look that hard. Unlike if he was playing football and he was commentating on a Packers game and he goes, oh, Aaron Rodgers got sacked, but they didn't really get him down that bad. He got up pretty quickly.
Coachman has a niche, and I think that niche is not wrestling.
For the most part, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly. To close you out, enjoy the soothing sounds of Jimmy Van and Sean Ross Sapp. See you later, folks.
Out of nowhere, Sean. I don't know who reported it on Sunday. Brock Lesnar's in San Antonio, your favorite city in the U.S. Brock Lesnar's in San Antonio. And we're all sitting there knowing, and the fans in live in attendance know, he's going to show up. Brock Lesnar's not going to vacation in San Antonio.
You don't go to San Antonio unless you have to.
But you know he's not there for a Comic-Con. You know what I mean? So then there comes Brock Lesnar in the main event, interrupting, looking good, looking trim, growing out the winter beard already, and interferes in the match. Yeah, he was looking trim.
You know why?
Because he wants to fight in the UFC.
Those 3 USADA tests, that's why.
Right, right. Oh, is it up to 3 now? They did another one?
3, yep.
Okay, okay. So here's my question. Oh, and now they're going to do the triple threat at Crown Royal, Brock, Braun, and Roman.
Crown Jewel.
Yeah,
Crown
sorry.
Royal.
maybe I need some Crown Royal with all this content.
Bags with
with all this content, maybe you need Crown Royal as a giveaway, Sean. So anyway, my only comment on the whole Brock Lesnar thing is this. If this is a one-off, and if the only plans for Brock Lesnar are to come in, do this show, and that's it, fine, right? If there's a plan to bring Brock back for some kind of a program, then the way they booked him going into SummerSlam, in my opinion, is completely inexcusable. Because they didn't book him as a babyface or a heel. They booked him as an asshole that fans don't give a shit about or shouldn't give a shit about and shouldn't want to watch. So I'm guessing this is just a one-off. And here's my other thing, Sean, and I don't know if you would know about this. Did the Saudi government request Brock Lesnar? Is that something that you would know at this point?
No, not right now. I mean, they requested Yokozuna once.
This is why I'm asking, because the last time they requested Yokozuna, they requested the Ultimate Warrior the last time, right?
You know, I got a lot of connections in the wrestling world. I unfortunately have no connection to the Saudi government, and I am incredibly grateful for that. I can't tell you how happy I am to not have those connections.
So the reason I'm asking that question is because Brock is probably going to get a 7-figure payday for that show.
Yeah, I would imagine so. If
he's
Kane
going
is
to
getting $100,000 to be in the corner and then maybe wrestle.
Yeah, Brock's going to get a 7-figure. He might get $1 million just to show up for a pro wrestling show, stay for 1 or 2 nights, and go home. Right. So my question is, I get it that Brock has notoriety because of the UFC, and so maybe the Saudi Arabian government knows who Brock Lesnar is, and maybe they told WWE, we'd like Brock Lesnar on the show. If the Saudi Arabian government did not tell WWE, we want Brock Lesnar on the show, why would you bring him in? Why would you spend that kind of money on him and bring him in? How does that make any sense?
Especially if you got away with the shit you got away with last time at Greatest Royal Rumble, where you really phoned it in. But I mean, they did fly, God, like 70 wrestlers over there.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe it's to really amp it up because, I don't know, I would like to say, oh, it's because they want to give them their money's worth, but that's never been the case. I mean, WGN got out of the wrestling game because they didn't get their money's worth out of WWE multiple times.
Yeah.
And they just dipped their toes back in. So it's really hard to say. But I was told WWE was very surprised that Lesnar was willing to work beyond SummerSlam because they were expecting, contrary to anything, contrary to reports of multiple years, contrary to him at one point saying he was done after SummerSlam, contrary to their original deal being up then, I was told they were surprised that he was even willing to work past then. But part of me wonders, I wonder if Brock Lesnar knows the drill. I wonder if he knows he's going to get his ass kicked by Daniel Cormier.
Maybe he does. Maybe he does.
Like, I can still make these WWE dates.
But at the same time, so I've told the story on the air before about how I almost had Brock once for a conference, right? And he was going to come in Vegas the same day, and he wanted $100,000 cash. And he was going to come in the same day and leave the same night and go home, right? Brock's not an idiot, and his management they're not stupid. I think Brock looked at it like, look, he don't forget that he lives in Canada, right?
Yes.
And I think Brock was thinking, look, I got to spend two nights, and he's probably going to get $1 million US, right? And he's probably thinking, I'd be an idiot not to do it. And the way they book him in matches, Sean, he's mostly going to be on offense. Mostly, you know,
or outside selling,
or outside
Roman and Brock, or Roman and Braun do things,
right? So it's not like it's going to be all that physically punishing for him. That's an easy payday for him, man.